Welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts, State Democratic Senator Thelma Harper of Nashville and syndicated conservative talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome. Thank you very much for your time as always. Let's start with the obvious. South Carolina Representative Joe Wilson, during the president's speech on health care reform, hollers that you lie. Can we agree that at least it was inappropriate at the very least in that setting?
Yeah, I think it was certainly a breach of decorum.
He has since apologized. To be fair, he has apologized. The president has accepted the apology.
It was a breach of decorum, but I think it was also a breach of decorum when the president of the United States, speaking in that august body, denounced at least half the audience there as liars himself. I mean, he was the first one that threw out the lie word. I think that was inappropriate, too. Also, keep in mind that just a few short years ago, when President Bush was speaking in his State of the Union, both in 2005 and 2006, Democrats were booing, Democrats were interjecting during his speech. So if it's inappropriate to interrupt a president, it was inappropriate in 2006 when Barack Obama stood up and did the same thing.
I think there was booing, and it was inappropriate both ways.
It's inappropriate for me to butt in while you're talking. But I think when we see a grown man who has told the people he would represent them, when he stands up in a setting like that and can't hold his temper, think about what would happen if you had college graduates standing up calling the chancellor a liar. I mean, we talk about our children and their conduct. I mean, what kind of example does he set?
So was the president doing the right thing when he called people liars?
Wait a minute. That was his speech. You could listen to it and keep quiet. That's what, and never attend one of his speeches again. But there's no way you can sugarcoat it. It was totally out of order. And we talk about what our children do now. They are taking their tone from adults. Now, if adults act like that, we have no excuses. We should never, ever talk about our young people again and their conduct.
Does this point to how emotional this debate has gotten, or is it beyond that?
Well, I don't think that's emotion. He wasn't showing emotions. I think as Mama said, he was just showing out. All he had to do was keep quiet. I mean, what difference would it have made if the president had said something that he didn't like? He should have had enough self-control to keep his comments to himself. That's usually what adults will do. They keep their comments to themselves. Go and tell him. I mean, it was totally inappropriate. There's no way you can spray Lysol on it and make it right.
I don't think anybody's trying to say it was right. I just think it's a point of the president called half that body liars. The president ought to start being president.
Used the word, I'm sorry, I thought
he used the word liars.
I saw the speech. I don't remember.
He used the word liars.
I didn't see the word. I didn't hear the words liars either, because I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't looking for liars. What I was looking for was
go back and watch the speech.
The contents of his speech is what I was looking for. What did he want to tell the American people?
The more important issue is, was Joe Wilson right? The president did not tell the truth when he said this bill will not provide health care coverage to illegals. The Congressional Research Service says that it will, because there's no enforcement mechanism built in. And there was an amendment that Dean Heller, a Nevada congressman, proposed that John Tanner, Democrat John Tanner, voted against, that would have made it enforceable to keep illegals from getting health care coverage under this provision. The president didn't tell the truth.
But, Steve, the bottom line is all he had to do was issue a press release, and in his press release he could have said whatever he wanted to.
And nobody would have paid any attention.
Oh, yes, they would have. Oh, yes, they would have if he had put that kind of strong language in it. But we can't make excuses. There's no excuse for a grown man who has been elected to one of the highest positions in the country conducting himself like that. Now,
earlier this week, the president also spoke to a group and said that the Republicans have no contrary proposal. There is no proposal that the Republicans have put up, and that's a great question. It's House Resolution 3400. There is a House bill that has been proposed.
Then they should put it out there.
It is out there. It's filed.
And they should discuss. One of the things I think that for me gets to be upsetting, you've got this document that is being circulated, and they're screaming and screaming and screaming. Well, if they're not satisfied with that, put something out there so there can be some comparisons.
They have. So it's House Resolution 3400. There's a bill that the Republicans have put up, Thelma, that the president lied about in Ohio and said it's not there.
Evidently, maybe they have not shown it to him.
They were actually holding it up and waving it at him.
But it hasn't been discussed. But it hasn't been discussed.
Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats haven't brought it into committee.
I don't call our presidents liars. I think we should respect President. Even
Isn't that really the question here? You're respecting the authority of the position.
Even it agitated me when I heard people say George Bush. He was the president. Doesn't matter if you like him. The majority of the people voted for him. He's still the president, and I think you should address him accordingly. I don't think you should call President Obama a liar.
If he'll stop lying, I'll stop calling him a liar.
He's no.
Harry Reid did the same thing to George Bush, Thelma, and I have never heard you condemn Harry Reid. He's the Senate Majority Leader for the Democrats.
I have not listened to Harry Reid that much.
Listen to the speech, really, because I just did not remember him using the word. I'll take your word for it that he did, but I don't remember him saying
I've never heard. I've never paid that much attention to Senator Reid. Never paid that much attention to him, but whether or not he misspoke, that's the difference.
What does this do for the health care debate? We now know what the president wants. He clearly emphasized what he wants. The Republicans still are firmly against any kind of public option, which seems to be now in the Democratic's way. It's going to have that in there. Does this mean we're at a stalemate and we're not going to get anything done?
It's not a stalemate because of the Republicans. The Democrats have 60 votes in the Senate. They have a clear majority in the House. They have the White House. Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid could bring this bill up for a vote tomorrow. They could shove it down the throats of the American people. The reason they're not doing it is because the American people don't support the radical agenda in this bill, the misstatements and the distortions that are contained in this bill. A lot of what the president said in his speech is just simply not true when you look at the bill itself that's moving its way through Congress. They don't need Republicans. Their problem isn't the Republican Party. It's that Democrats are not willing to sign on because they know the American people don't back it.
Well, dogs have been opposed, but now they're on board.
But let me just tell you something else. We can talk all day about the cost of health care and all of the things that we don't like, but we're living in a caste system. You can afford insurance, and you have it. You can afford it, and you have it. I can afford insurance, and I have it. But we've got over 40 million people out there who have no insurance coverage. And then what happens to them? We're not talking about illegals. What happens to them when they need to go to a hospital and need to see a doctor, when their heart hurts or when their heart plays out? What are we saying? Oh, it increases the deficit. Everybody should have insurance. Everybody should be required to pay something. If it's no more than a quarter, if you got a senior citizen with no...
Continue our debate as this bill goes forward. Steve Gill, Thelma Harper, appreciate your insight. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.